you should feel you have no reason to have any confidence in that sort of leadership. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Michael Voris Show. I'm Michael Voris. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the looniest things and yet most common things in not just corporate America, but educational America, and most especially the military. It's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's this great, big, huge, formal-sounding program to push a lot of woke crap. So let's break down the three things. We already actually did a show on diversity a couple months ago, and the idea that when you're talking about diversity, that somehow all kinds of various competing things and different world views and all of that might be somehow good. Well, it might be good to arrive at an agreed upon point, but the motto of the U.S. is "E pluribus unum," out of the many, one. So yeah, you can certainly feed to it. Where you want diversity on a menu when you walk into a restaurant, whatever the restaurant is, Chinese, Italian, whatever. There's where you want diversity, but you don't want a diversity of world views. Some people believe in there's God. Some people believe in there's not God. Some people believe in this thing's God. That's God. There isn't God. How are you ever going to, when you have fundamental things that are completely contradictory to each other? That's the point. How are you ever going to get unity out of that? You can't. It's like somebody sitting over there saying, well, our group believes that 2 + 2 = 12. Well, our group over here believes that 9 - 3 = 86. You can't, and then say, well, everybody's an outlaw. Let's pull all of this together. Let's harness all of this together, and out of the many, let's come up with one. One what? One piece of crap? You can't come up with something where you have contradictory, assertions being made. I can tell you that when I was in news, reporting and anchoring as news. There was lots of diversity on the things that sort of really didn't matter, I suppose. There were different sexes, obviously male and female. That's all there are. In the newsroom, there were different colors of skin, white, black, brown, all of that. There's all of those different things. There were also a mixture, a diverse background, I suppose, of ethnicities. And, it's not like all white people are the same. Some are Irish, some are Italian, some are Polish, some are Canadian, all over the place. And they all bring some of their own cultural stuff to it. But the one thing which was most important, where there was zero diversity, was the worldview. Everything was seen through sort of that liberal little establishment eyeglass there. You see everything the way it was very monolithic. Didn't matter really that, you had a black guy standing over here and a white woman standing over there and an Asian guy standing over there. That didn't really matter. It doesn't really bring anything to the table except when it comes to that they all agree with the same ideological worldview. You want diversity, there's where you're going to have your knockdown, drag out diversity. So we talked about that already in an earlier show. Just wanted to recap that. Let's move on now to the question of equity. What exactly does that mean? Are you talking about fairness? Or are you talking about equal? Because there is a difference, and people interchange those terms all the time. I just want fair. It just needs to be equal. Treating people equally is not fair. Treating people equally is not fair because people arrive at different places and make different levels of different types of choices of whatever. And you can't say, well, this person doing this deserves to be treated equally to this person doing this. Let's give you a real hard-world example here. Why would you, for example, think it would be not fair to treat a murderer in a courtroom, a serial killer in a courtroom, with the same guy who just walked in there and stole, a different guy walked into the same court and had stolen a bag of groceries from Kroger or Meijer or whatever? that you would treat them the same, either execute him for stealing the bag of groceries, at which point you're executing the serial killer as well. Well, you're treating them equally. Sure you are. But you're not treating them fairly because the circumstances call for different treatment. Equality is a thing, a woke talking point to get the same outcome, regardless of who the individuals are. That's not fair. So what we're talking about here, equality sounds like justice. It sounds like it's fair because the words get bandied about in these sort of vague sounding notions. But, let's just say that we should be very happy as Catholics and Christians that God doesn't treat everybody equally on the last day, because that would probably really suck. But he'll treat everybody fairly. You did this, and this is what you get. You did this, and this is what you receive. That's the difference between equality and fairness. Don't ever, ever mix up in your head that equality equals fair. It doesn't. Before we go on, I want to just tell you that this is brought to you, this show today. I want to be able to give a little pump in for the retreat at sea that is happening in the fall. We have two. We're going to actually do two different cruises. This one, first one, is the last week of September, and we're going up sort of the eastern seaboard a little bit, sort of looking at like the Catholic heritage and talking about that here in the United States, of all places. What lots of people don't realize when it comes to all of that is Catholics were the first ones here. We all talk about the founding of the country and the colonies and the Mayflower and coming over and the Pilgrims on Plymouth Rock and all of that. That's because your history is distorted. There were Catholics here all over North America 100 years before the Pilgrims ever got on board the Mayflower and made it to Plymouth Rock. So we're going to be talking about all of that, how America really wasn't America, the United States of America, because the nation didn't exist yet, but how the North American continent had actually been very Catholic, and then the Pilgrims arrived, and about 150, 200 years later, all of a sudden you have, all kinds of, craziness. Anyway, that's the topic of that retreat, and how we can be very proud of our American Catholic heritage and things people just don't stop to think about when they think about the United States and all of that. So please sign up, click the link, and make sure that you join us on that. It's these retreats at sea are always good. There's a lot of fellowship. There's a lot of fun times. There's a lot of deep stuff as well, which is kind of the point of a retreat. But it happens in a really good environment. So let me encourage you, please join us for that fall Church Militant Retreat at sea. Now back to this. Our last one is inclusion, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What on earth is inclusion? Does that mean nobody is excluded? Yeah, well, kinda. That's the theory. And everything is included. Everything is allowed to be at the table, except, as we see, sort of authentic Christian values. The reason I mentioned the military at the beginning of all of this is greatly impacting what's known as military readiness. I grew up in a military family in the Air Force, traveled all over the world, was in England for 6 years as a little kid, Texas for 6 years, Northern California for 6 years. If you haven't seen the movie Covenant with Jake Gyllenhaal, it's actually a really good movie. But in one scene there, they have this big shot of Travis Air Force Base in Northern California, and that's where we actually were stationed for my middle school and high school years. My dad was stationed. Air Force. One of the things that is disturbing about all of this DEI stuff is its application in the military for two reasons. The secondary reason is that your tax dollars are being used to pay for this, and it's corrupting minds. It's weakening readiness, military readiness. Why is there a military? There's a reason there's a military is to go fight for the country and defend it. And promote the causes, and unfortunately it's a fallen world, and sometimes you have to resort to violence when there's no other means to defend the good and defend the right. The other thing, however, is just that. You're paying for it, but it's destroying what's known as military cohesion. When you form a military, you're forming a unit, a single unit, a team. Let's take a look, shall we? And say, do you really think that the rank and file are kind of down with this madness? This is a United States Navy guy. And this is kind of what he does in his spare time, as well as what he does and gets a big round of applause from the Pentagon.
But they won't. They want to see you. They want to see you let it out. They want to see you go off. You know I am in business. Come, let's give them just what they want. They want to see you.
I have got to believe that the Chinese are quaking in their boots. My goodness, can you imagine the fear that has been struck in the hearts of the communists in Beijing when they watch that sort of video? My goodness, they're going to have to revamp their entire military plan for attacking the United States or whatever the case is. They have to be prepared to face our opponents not with bullets, is what they're thinking. We have to call them by the wrong pronouns. That will send them scattering. They'll drop their weapons and run. This is nuts. This is not how you train a military. Thank you for watching The Michael Voris Show. If you'd like to watch the entire episode, please head over to churchmilton.com and sign up as a premium member. If you need to sign up to become a premium member, go to churchmilton.com/go premium.